What's up, y'all? It's Truth Tiger. I'm going to talk again about the NPCs, and man, these NPCs, it's like they don't even want to think for themselves. They don't want to, have their brain turned on at all. They just want to shut their brains off, power down, not even have to think about anything, and it's like they're so like spaced out and weird, and like they're just so out of it. It's like they're somewhere else, and I have a good story for this. Like I was when I was in my early 20s, I believe, around that age, I was hanging out at my mom's house, and she's more in the baby boomer age generation, and it was her and her boyfriend and a bunch of people she knew, when we were having a dinner together, and my friend was also over there, and so was his cousin, and my friend's cousin wanted to ask my mom's boyfriend, I don't know, to pass him something on the table or something like that. And I just said, we all called him by his first name, but he wanted to be all formal and call him Mr., So me, being a little prankster, thinking I have the funniest joke, I decide to tell him the wrong name. So I say, his name is Mr. So-and-so, which one is actually his name is, Mr. Such and Such. And so he literally calls him by the wrong name. He goes, "Hey, Mr. So-and-so." And he looks and he goes, "Oh, what?" And nobody at the table recognized it. And it was mostly, people in that baby boomer generation who are pretty NPC'd out. I'm also from an Orthodox Jewish background, so religious people are pretty NPC'd out as well. And they had nobody said anything. Nobody noticed it at all. He looked at the guy, called him by the wrong name, completely the wrong name, and they were just like, "Oh yeah," and nobody noticed. And I was like, how did nobody notice that, And it's just like, it's stuff like that where you're just like, man, like, people are just not paying attention, man. They're just completely out of it, And even for people who do have, some level of perception, where if they're called by the wrong name, they'll notice it. Like, in terms of the structure of their life and who they are and what they do and what their lives about, they don't want to have to think about that for themselves. They want it all pre-decided, They want it all pre-decided. They want it all figured out for them. They don't want to have to think about who they are, what they should do, what their personality's like, what their life mission is, what ethics and morality really are, what doing the right thing is. They don't want to think about any of that. They want someone else to think for them, And that's what the Matrix in society does, is like someone else thinks for you, And I've seen things from people who are former inmates in prison, and something I'll see almost universally, which is it's hard for me to wrap my head around, but inmates and prisoners will say when they get out, they'll go to the grocery store and they'll have it'll mess them up. They'll go into overdrive. It'll mentally completely screw them up because they have all these options, You go to a big grocery store, you have probably, I don't know, tens of thousands of different, items you can buy there. And that sheer number of things is just like, it freaks them out because they're so used to having everything planned out for them. The food you eat is planned out. Your activities for the day are planned out. And everything is already all laid out and pre-planned and pre-decided. And they're so used to that when they get options and choices, it just freaks them out and freezes them up, And it's kind of a scary thing to think about because, we're not in prison itself, but we're in the societal prison, and, on a higher level in terms of who we are, what we should do with our lives, what we can do, what's really important. Like, those choices are all pre-decided for us. And we're just going on the track, And it's, it's what the NPCs are doing, Us chosen ones have gotten out of the Matrix and have gotten off that track, and we're not just doing this NPC stuff, but that's how the NPCs are living. And like, a lot of people genuinely do not want to think for themselves. Like, you see people at work and stuff, they just want to power down, show up, turn my brain off, do the job, just not think for myself at all. You know, it's like they think it's I don't know, they don't want to have to do the hard work. There's intellectual laziness. And I think it's also conformity too. They want to conform and fit into society, and they don't want to be different or to stick out or anything like that. And I think that's a big way to ensure that they fit in, ensure that they're like other people, ensure that they don't stick out, is just to not think for themselves. And, you know, society does encourage this mental brain shut off. It really does, you know. People are encouraged to turn their brains off, especially by religions and stuff like that. You know, we'll do the thinking for you. We'll tell you what's important in life. You know, you don't have to worry about that. Show up to church, you know, sit back, listen to the sermon. No participation of your own. Most people don't even read the Bible or anything. They sit back, listen to the sermon, up. And then, you know, the religion I came from, Orthodox Judaism, it's more of a, we're constantly on you. It's more like you're praying 3 times a day. You're having to do all this stuff. You got all these crazy rules you got to do, and you're just jumping around from one thing to the next. And like I've had times where I've seen some of my old, you know, rabbis. A rabbi is like a Jewish teacher / kind of pastor kind of guy. And I've seen, you know, them, and they just have this dead look in their eyes. They just look so out of it and so spaced out. It's like you say something to them, hi, and they'll be like, you know. And I'll see it at work too, you know. You'll say hi to them or something, just like kind of turn and look at you, and they can't even muster, you know, they don't even have the internal strength to like muster a conversation, you know. And it's just, it's weird, man. It really is. And a lot of people seem to really relish this. And in like a dynamic of being an enabler to a narcissist or being a bystander or something like that turning off your brain is a big part of that. You know, I'm not going to question this. I'm just going to go along with it, you know. I'm not going to question the narcissist or narcissism or all this crazy stuff. I'm just going to turn off my brain and just completely go along with it, you know. And you see this with the left and the social justice people big time. I mean, Marxist is what they really are, but like they just turn their brain off and just absorb the ideology completely and just follow it in lockstep. And whatever they kind of see being pushed by the media or pushed on the university campuses or whatever, they just go along with it right in lockstep, not thinking for themselves whatsoever, you know. Trump is bad, Republicans are bad, you know, we need to persecute conservative people, essentially, on some level, you know. That's kind of what they want to do-ish, but they don't think about it. They're very unthinking in their beliefs. And I've had conversations with a lot of liberals where they're telling me, like, oh, you know, the January, someone told me, like, that the insurrection or whatever, when all the people with Trump had the riot at the Capitol, you know, it's not really an insurrection. That's a misleading term for it. That's intentionally, designed to propagate, you know, essentially just try to make it sound worse than it was. But, you know, I've talked to, like, liberal people, and they're like, that was the worst event in American history since the Civil War. I'm like, what are you talking about, you know? There's so many things that were way, way, way worse, you know? Any terrorist attack, any mass shooting, and like I'm like, dude, are you for real? Like, you know, some building fire where a bunch of people die. Like, I'm like there's been way worse things that have happened. Like, and he's like, 3 people died. I'm like, yeah, that's terrible. 3 people died, but you're acting like 300,000 people died, you know? And he was just kind of like looking at me like, oh, you know, and I'm whatever trying to like tell them some stuff about Trump. I'm doing this very gentle, like, actually, you know, I'm really trying to, because I know they have a certain perception, but just like, oh my God, like they just turn off their brains and accept the programming. And look, there's people on the conservative side that do the same thing and that are very robotic in their conservative beliefs and have hero worship and stuff like that. I'm not saying it doesn't happen on the conservative side. It certainly does. But it's just like, man, you know, people just believe things unquestioningly, you know, without any question whatsoever. They just go along with it, you know. And I think about, you know, the military too. Like, the military is so like, you put your ammunition sack here, you put your ammunition clip in your rucksack, your canteen goes here, and you know, you march left, right, left, right, left, right. You know, chew, 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 swallow, chew, chew. You know, there's like, it's like, and I've heard things about people coming out of the military where there's like, all I need to worry about is, you know, killing the enemy and not getting killed by the enemy. And then I go into regular life and I have to do taxes and I have to make my relationship with my wife work and I have to be a good dad for my kids. And that's all just so hard, you know, but there, it's just, life is simple. You know, I've literally heard that. And it's like, because you have to think for yourself. Outside of that, it's like people want any escape from having to think for themselves, man. And it's just like, thinking for yourself should not be some burdensome, hard, horrible, like, I have to think for, like, people are so, like, the NPCs just hate thinking for themselves. It's just something they won't do and they don't want to do, you know? And they refuse to do it, you know? They really do. Like, going back to, like, the liberal stuff, like, where I live in Seattle, they made, like, an autonomous, like, zone, like, these Antifa people or whatever, I don't know what they were exactly, but they made some autonomous zone, and they you know, the police abandoned the precinct, and a bunch of dumb stuff happened, you know, and hold on, there's no sidewalk here, and I got some people walking in the streets, so I want to make sure these folks pass by safely. Alrighty, I'm back, but and I remember, you know, he was talking about the January 6th thing where 3 people died. I'm like, what about here where we live? I think 3 people died there. That's right in our own city. Oh, you know, oh, well, I just didn't really think about that much. It's like, it's because you're watching CNN and MSNBC and they're just programming. And like, you know, Fox News and some of the conservative media stuff do similar things. I'm not saying it doesn't happen on the other side. And, you know, there's definitely some programming going on there too, but it's just like, people these NPCs just, you know, it's just like, there's something in them, they have like a desire for it though. Like, on some level there is people not knowing, people being deceived, I've been deceived, but then there's just like this very willful ignorance where they're just like, you know, just, I don't want to think about anything, just turn off my brain, I'll let society decide it for me. You know, society will decide who I am. Society will decide what I think. Society will decide what I believe. You know, the Matrix will decide it. I don't need to think for myself. I don't need to have any, you know, and it's like they take pride in the conformity. They take pride in how programmed and just brainwashed they are, you know, and I mean, it's a lot of stuff that just people are so brainwashed into. Another one is feminism and the women's movements and all this stuff. Like, all these women are hating men. They're doing hashtag kill all men and just doing all this creepy stuff. And you know, outside of that, there's such a programming on women to be like, I only want a rich guy, and you know, because they've seen all these, you know, romantic movies and all this Prince Charming stuff, and you know, they're very programmed to have this idealistic vision of things. And for the women, a lot of times that vision is you turn off your brain and Prince Charming thinks for you. He'll figure it all out, you know. And it's like, no, turn on your brain, turn your brain on, you know. And some men do this with women too. Like, you know, I'll marry her and I'll magically just get all my stuff together and it's all gonna just make sense. Like, it's not. It's really not. Turn on your brain, please, you know? And just these NPCs, man, they're so out of it, man. They're just so, it's like, what's even going on there? You're just like they're just robots, just kind of completing their tasks, doing their thing. And it's like, do you ever think about, do they ever think about why they do what they do? Do they ever think about what their purpose is on this earth? Do they ever think about, like, anything like that ever? I don't think they do. I don't think they want to, I think they really, really don't. And you'll talk to certain people, and they will outright say, I want to just turn off my brain. I don't want to think about anything, They will outright say that. And, like, the system, it encourages it. Just don't think. And that's what'll make you a slave, You're not going to have any mastery, or, you're not going to have anything figured out for yourself if you do that, It's all just going to be pre-decided for you. Oh, they'll make it good. They'll pre-decide it for me in a good way, And just, man, All right, I'm probably going to end this video now, but thank you all for watching. I greatly appreciate everybody's viewership. And, yeah, I will see you all next time.